Good morning, Saint Bartholomew.
Good morning.
It is my distinct pleasure to join you today. Thank you, Vicar, Rector, clergy staff, choir, and all of you who belong to this great hall of faith. I appreciate your invitation to this place at this hour on this esteemed occasion. Matthew chapter 22, verses 2, 3, and 4 may well be familiar to many. It reads, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. And he sent his servants to call those who had previously been invited to the wedding feast, but they refused to come. Then he sent out some other servants, saying, 'Tell those who have been invited, look, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fatted calves are butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast.'" Against this festive backdrop, beloved, and given the occasion of my preaching this morning, it doesn't seem at all inappropriate that I should complement this reading from Matthew with an excerpt, one line, from King's iconic address at the Lincoln Memorial in August of 1963. "I have a dream that one day the sons and daughters of former slaves and the sons and daughters of former slave owners will be able to sit down at the table of brotherhood." Amen. Edna and Willis Bradley have been warm friends to my wife Pam and me for almost 40 years. We met them when we were homesick undergraduates from Baltimore living in St. Louis. They were a few years older, just getting started as a young family. Though we married and moved away from St. Louis, and they moved too a few times, they have been among our biggest supporters consistently for a very long time. A couple of weeks ago, I took off from LaGuardia to visit Willis and Etna in Davenport, Florida, a few miles south of Orlando. This is where they retired. Etna had called a few days earlier to give me the heartbreaking news that she was in home hospice care. And though I was confident that she was in good hands, instantly I felt I had to see her. It had been more than a couple of years after all, thank you very much, COVID-19, and seeing as Edna had been to me for 37 years, I counted, something like a surrogate mom and older sister all rolled into one, it was important that I see her quickly. I wanted to see them both, of course, Willis and Etna, but I needed to lay eyes, as we say, on Etna. Now, I expected to find Etna low when I touched down in Orlando. And, in a physical sense, I suppose she was quite low. But nothing prepared me for how positively glowing she'd be at even her lowest moment. I mean, there she was, sitting up in her bed, tastefully bonneted, thinner than the last time I saw her for sure, but still somehow beaming. Yes, beaming. I don't think I have seen glory attach itself to a mortal being so vividly and unmistakably. Now, I had gone to Florida to lay eyes on Etna, hoping that my presence might lift her some. But I had the distinct feeling, heading out of the front door and back to the airport a few hours later, that I was the one who had been lifted. That despite all of my assumptions about who was low, Etna, and who was whole, me, it was Etna who somehow had laid eyes on me, sending me back home to Pam and our family with the gift of knowing how deeply she cared for us. Perhaps it was the marvel, maybe the mystery of that experience sitting with Etna and Willis, but especially Etna, that made me particularly sensitive to a sign. Yes, a sign I came upon even more recently in front of a church on Madison Avenue, a little further uptown from here. Follow me. The sign announced a free dinner that the church was to host, a public one extended, as I recall, to anyone in need. Dinner, not a brown bag lunch prepared to go, but a full-out dinner. A sit-down affair intended, it seems, to not only satisfy the stomach, but to dignify the invited with, well, fellowship, with a different, maybe deeper sense of community, with table talk and conversation. Only a few hours after laying eyes on Etna, I saw that sign announcing supper for anyone in need, and suddenly I realized Etna's grace and strength and good humor in suffering made me realize that anyone in need included me. Perhaps not in the sense that I was at risk of not having dinner that day, though it seems the price of eggs is making us feel a little uncertain about that, but needy in the sense that her bedridden witness to faith somehow fed me, nourished me, invigorated my soul. Until then, I hardly knew the extent of my own need for the grace of others that I didn't imagine had grace enough to give. Still, if I'm honest, I probably won't attend the dinner on Madison Avenue, where I suspect I would be well if differently fed by other Etnas. In spite of what I think I know about the human need for more humanizing encounters, about the inescapable network of mutuality we are called to honor when we are called to the table, any table, the conference table as much as the dinner table, the tables of brotherhood and sisterhood, the national table and the global table, the local table and the tables of justice and freedom. In spite of what I think I know about these tables and about the fact that what is said there is as important as what is served there, how what is felt there as much as what one is fed there is sacramental too. In spite of what I think I know about how the human-to-human encounter, the fellowship between like and unlike classes of men, about how my listening to the other guy's story for a change, just listening, dignifies me at the same time, rehumanizes me as I see myself reflected in his eyes, maybe. His story, if I try. His triumph, if he lasts. His survival, for sure. In spite of being fairly certain that at the root of our social and political strife, the chronic condition of our racism and ethnic prejudices and all sorts of xenophobias, at the root of it all is a system error, a breakdown, no, a refusal of empathy, for which the intimacy of the table, beloved, is our only antidote and our only hope. Still, I probably won't attend the dinner on Madison Avenue, not because I'm not one of the invited ones. I am, though I often forget I am. But I suppose I'm a little proud still. To be perfectly honest, I'm reluctant to disclose that I'm needy too. Funny how that works, isn't it? How challenging it is for some of us to accept our own limited humanity, the truth of our need to see others so that we can see who we are, or might be if we are brave enough to look and listen and imagine something else, both more and less than this. If I discovered anything sitting at Etna's bedside a few days ago, chatting and chopping it up, I discovered that even if Etna was happy to see me, much to my surprise, I needed to see Etna more. My soul is a witness. Let me close now by acknowledging more explicitly the matter that inspired this generous invitation to me to participate in the worship at St. Bart's today. On the afternoon of August 28, 1963, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. extended to the world a stirring invitation of his own. This one, to the table of brotherhood. He issued it from a heavily wired platform built onto the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. I recall that invitation today with the benedictory hope that every new dinner invitation you shall receive, formal or casual, brings King's table to mind. In fact, in his name and the name of his legacy, I am urging you to join us all for the great supper of human togetherness. This table is post-racial, ecumenical, colorful, post-partisan, maybe even a little queer. This table is where beloved community begins. There is no beloved community without the table. This table is not merely a symbol. It's a place, a public place, perhaps, a meeting place, for sure. Something like a park bench, perhaps, or sometimes it's a chair set down by the bedside of a beautiful, beautiful friend. Amen. Amen.